Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. You know, we've talked about a lot of these large box sets issued by major labels that contain just a random assortment of stuff. You know, when you're going to put together a big box, how one curates the collection really matters. And it's such a pleasure to look at the boxes issued by Naxos and see how much smarter they are in putting these things together than most of these so-called major labels have been. This is the choral music box. It's 30 CDs, as usual, containing 29 separate works or groups of works or things of works. And, you know, we talked about the early music box, which is also excellent. And there's virtually no overlap. I think there's one, the Hildegard of Bingen disc. But other than that, this is almost entirely different repertoire. And what makes this so wonderful is that it consists of choral music from like the dawn of time until like, you know, the late 20th century or just a few weeks ago, as you'll see. It's amazing. You get something like 500 years of choral and vocal, you know, both choral and vocal works by the widest range of composers imaginable. And what makes Naxos' collection even more fascinating is that they have the repertoire. They have such a vast range of repertoire that they can put together a collection that contains lots and lots of interesting stuff that you're not going to have 500 versions of and that you can't get anywhere else. So this is really a cool box. I have had so much fun playing with it over these past few weeks since I've been trolling around through it. And so I'm going to tell you all about it. And we're going to go through all 30 CDs individually. Now, in this case, you don't get like in the early music collection, you had the nice map with the big essay. This, you just get a little teeny leaflet with the track listings and a little bit about the collection over here. And of course, as in all of these budget box sets, there are no texts and translations. And that could be problematic. You can go to the Naxos website and some of that stuff is available there, but basically you're on your own. And I wish that weren't the case. I wish there were some systematic place where you could go that reflects this particular collection. That would have been the icing on the cake. It really would have been, because you need to know what the words are if you want to focus on these things very intently. But for a lot of the music, it's either a mass setting or it's something that has been done before, or you can find the text without too much difficulty online. But it's a question of convenience. And it wouldn't have killed him. It really wouldn't have. So I have to say that. But in the meantime, let's now look and see what we get in the choral collection. The other thing that's so cool about this, by the way, is that essentially, other than like that Hildegard disc, but basically the entire thing is just alphabetical. It's alphabetical by composer. And it's still wonderful. It's still an amazing assortment of stuff. And what makes it so cool is that having it alphabetical as opposed to chronological or something else means that there's a lot of variety from one disc to the next, which makes it really interesting to sample. You know, even at random, you just pull out a couple. You're not going to get bored. You're going to hear a wonderful mix of styles. So we start with Alexander Agricola. Yes, this is his secular music. His dates were 1446 to 1506, which is like unbelievable. With Ensemble Unicorn, he did a lot of secular songs in the style of the day, and they're quite lovely and lots of fun to hear. They're love songs, basically, for multiple voices. And here you go. What a way to start, back in the 1400s, right? Going from the 1400s, we jump to today. I mean, I just think this is so cool. I really do, because you get such a range. It's phenomenal. We have Kim André Arnesen, the Norwegian composer who was born in 1980. Is that 80? Is that what that says? It says 1980. Yeah, it does. Holy mackerel. I don't know if it's an 8 or a 6. I think it's 1980. Anyway, he's a very well-known composer of choral music, specialty composer of choral music in that sense. And here is a little bit. I'm going to play you a little bit of his Flight Song, as beautifully sung by Cantorai under Joel Rinsema. Oh my goodness. And look, this got a very high rating from classicstoday.com. Yes, my associate David Vernier, who is a choral composer and choral conductor and genius of all things choral, ranked this disc very highly, and it is quite lovely. The songs are beautiful, the pieces here, the choral works. So here's a bit of Flight Song, which was composed in 2014. So we're going from the 1400s to 2014, and that is just so typical of the fascinating variety of stuff that you'll find in this collection. So here you go. Yes, that was a bit of Flight Song by Kim Andre Arneson. Then you get a really cool collection of Beethoven choral music. You see, you don't get all the obvious stuff. The Missa Solemnis isn't here. This is the cantata Das glorreiche Augenblick, the glorious instant, and also the choral fantasia. So I mean, it's like rather cool, I think, to have these two works. I mean, the choral fantasia is very well known, but the cantata is quite rare. So a little bit of rare Beethoven, very nicely performed, I might add. It really is. Well, we don't have to get into all the details. I'm just telling you that the performances are really good, and that's what matters. Then we have the Brahms German Requiem. We all know about that. This was a performance that I sort of said, it's nothing special, and I still agree with that. It's not bad. It's not by any stretch of the imagination. It's quick, which is a good thing. But this is the Marin Alsop MDR Leipzig Radio Choir performance. And of course, having the Leipzig Radio Choir is the best thing about it because they're fabulous. But it's a good German Requiem. It's a solid performance, just not one of the great ones. The Cherubini Requiem. Now, I've talked about this performance. The Cherubini Requiem is wonderful. It's coupled with the Marche Funèbre. And it's great because it has a dies irae with a big, healthy tam-tam swat right at the beginning. And I'm going to play it for you. A little bit of that, too. This is a fun disc. It really is. This is with, who is this? With Diego Fazzolis. Yes, and the Orchestra della Radio Svizzera Italiana. Great fun. Really a wonderful piece. The Cherubini C minor Requiem is a masterpiece in its way, and you really ought to know it. And it's really nice that it's included here. So here's a bit of the dies irae. fun stuff. And a beautiful work. Absolutely beautiful. Then a real rarity, the cantata Aristea by Donizetti. This is one of those, music for a royal occasion type things. And, I mean, whoever knew that Donizetti wrote this thing. And it's a very good performance of it. And delightful music and classic bel canto style. And where else are you going to find it? Seriously. I mean, it's great it makes a box like this a joy to go through because it just has the repertoire. It has surprises. Of course, finding the words for Aristea may be a bit problematic, but at least you can get complete notes and a description of it on the Naxos website. So there's that. Then we have 2 discs, the Dvorak Requiem with Antony Witt and his Polish forces. This is one of the reference recordings of the work. It is magnificent, and there's a good bit of Antony Witt stuff in here. Yeah, smart move, guys. And all of it's fantastic, and we'll see more of it shortly. See, we're already up to the letter D, and now we're going even further into F. Oh, the Faure Requiem. On other choral works, this is the original version for chamber orchestra of the Faure Requiem. It's very nicely done. And we get, other works by Louis Vierne and Déodé de Séverac, his Tantum Ergo, and the Faure Messa Basse, which is really a lovely work. Lovely, lovely work. And the Faure Cantique de Jean Racine. I sang that in college glee club. It's like Verbega l'entrezau, notre unique espérance, something like that. Well, the fact of the matter is our choral conductor at that point was a jerk, and we changed the French words to Vous ne conduisez pas un sac de pommes de terre. Like, you couldn't conduct a sack of potatoes. Yes, that was our version of the Cantique de Jean Racine. It was fun. Beautiful disc. Oh, Gesualdo Madrigals, Book 4. I did a talk about this collection. They are fabulous. Absolutely first rate. This is with, Deliciae Musicae under Marco Longini. A great, great box. And really, you should have the complete set. But here's a wonderful sampling. And maybe you'll go and get the complete set after this, even though you'll duplicate Volume 4, but they're available separately. I mean, Gesualdo you got to have. So that's really cool. And then Handel Messiah highlights. Okay, who needs it? But it may be a selling point. I don't know. It's with the Scholars Baroque Ensembles. Very good performance. And it's Messiah highlights. Next. Haydn. Ooh. His Missa Brevis from 1749, one of the very, very earliest works we have of Haydn, and the Harmonia Messa, his last Mass, which is absolutely glorious. And this is with the front part of their Naxos' complete Haydn Mass collection with the Trinity Choir and the Rebel Baroque Orchestra under J. Owen Burdick and Jane Glover. It's a very good series. It really is. I'm going to play you a bit of the Dona Nobis Pacem from the Harmonia Messa, which is just fabulous. It's so catchy. I mean, Haydn is so great in this stuff. I mean, he was criticized for being not liturgical enough because you really go away humming the tunes. I mean, I have to just play it for you. Listen to this. Dona, pacem, dona no. What could be bad? Seriously. Marvelous. Marvelous. Oh, then we're back to Anthony Witt with this first, and this is the whole disc. The Janacek Glagolitic Mass, another great performance. Fantastic performance with a fantastic Janacek Sinfonietta. And this is a hot, hot record. I mean, you know, worth the price of the box. That's really, really fine. And it's great that it's, I mean, again, look at the repertoire you're getting. You go from Handel's Messiah to a Haydn Mass to the Janacek Glagolitic Mass, and now to Orlando de Lassus, the St. Matthew Passion. I mean, back to the 16th century, right? That's when he is. Yeah, 16th century. I mean, it's bewilderingly fabulous. It just is. It's great. And this is, do we care who's doing it? Yes, Musica Ficta under Bo Holton. And they're a very, very fine group. And, you know, good stuff. Then let's see, what do we have? Oh, you go back even further. Oh my God, the 12th century. Organum, the earliest polyphonic choral music in existence that we know who the authors are. This is Leonine and Perrotin, sacred music from Notre Dame Cathedral, the earliest polyphonic sacred music we have. And this is, like I said, is organum. Organum means the lines move in parallel fourths and fifths. If you like John Leif's, or Jan Leifs, or whatever you want to call him, John Leifs, the Icelandic guy. It sounds like Icelandic folk music. It sounds a lot like this. Very primal sounding and fascinating. So that's really cool, and you have to have it because that's sort of like the beginning of choral music before Gregorian chant, which isn't strictly anything. I mean, choral or not choral, it's just Gregorian chant. And then we have, let's see here. Oh, wow. Oh, this is fun. This is Simon Mayr, who I've done little talks about because he quoted Beethoven liberally in some of his works. He was the teacher of Donizetti. And we have Mayr's Te Deum and this Missa Solemnis in C major, Kerschel Anhang C120 something by Mozart. No, it's not by Mozart, but it's 43 minutes of not Mozart. And it's very interesting to have. It's not Mozart. But of course, you're going to have some Mozart, and that naturally will be the Requiem. Here it is, in a perfectly decent performance, conducted by Morten Schult Jensen. It's a perfectly fine performance. I've said it 100 times. I don't really care for the Mozart Requiem. I don't really believe it's enough of a work by Mozart, shall we say. Not because Süssmayr finished it badly. He did it in the right style. It's just not Mozart-y enough for me. It has some beautiful, beautiful moments, but it's too much of a fragment, and I'd rather listen to things that are not fragmentary, of which Mozart wrote quite a liberal quantity. But you may love it, since everyone else disagrees with me, and it's a good Mozart Requiem. And of course, it does make a choral music collection. I mean, how do you do a choral music collection without a Mozart Requiem, right? Palestrina, the Missa L'Homme Armé. Thank God it's not the Pope Marcellus Mass. That's the one, right? The Missa Papi Marcelli or whatever they call it. No, it's the L'Homme Armé Mass, of which Josquin wrote several, or two of them, and 3 motets, and the Missa Sine Nomine, which means Missa without a name, Mass without a name, because he didn't give it a name, or we don't know what the basis of it is, so we haven't been able to give it a name. Anyway, it's a lovely disc of Palestrina. You got to have Palestrina if you have choral music. Which you don't need to have, but which is marvelous that it's here, is Arvo Pärt's Passio. Yeah, and a really good performance. This is really first rate. It's with Tonus Peregrinus, and they're a wonderful group, and it's a beautiful performance. And once again, from Palestrina to Pärt, just staying within the letter P. Isn't that elegant? I think it's just so cool. And still staying within the letter P. Even more marvelous. Yes, I love Penderecki's Utrenia. Yes, Utrenia, Utra, the morning service. And this is one of the great Penderecki choral works. It belongs with the St. Luke Passion, and it's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And I just love Penderecki's choral music. I think he was such a genius, and it's, alternates between, very simple a cappella settings and like crazy avant-garde stuff. And oh God, I just love this stuff. The St. Luke Passion, of course, is wonderful. The Polish Requiem is wonderful. And this is Anthony Witt. What could be bad? One of the most fascinating ththings about this is that Ormandy made the first recording of this, Eugene Ormandy in Philadelphia, which is also quite fascinating. It's on RCA, but, this is a great series. And so we've got Penderecki, and then Purcell, the Ode for St. Cecilia's Day, and the Te Deum, and the Noise of Foreign Wars, and Raise the Voices, and Jubilate Deo, and his Trumpet Sonata No. 1. A lovely Purcell compendium. And after that, oh baby, the Rachmaninoff Vespers. This is such a flaming masterpiece. People should know this. If you know Rachmaninoff, I want to play you a little bit. This performance, which is quite marvelous, is with the Finnish National Opera Chorus under Erik Olaf Söderström. Now, the Finnish choirs are like Russian choirs. They have those deep basses. They could really sing this music. And the number I'm going to be playing you is track number 9, in case you wonder which track it is. It's called the let's see, what is this thing called? It's called Troparta of the Resurrection. Yes, the whatever of the resurrection. The point is, it concludes with an Alleluia, a praise the Lord and Alleluia. And the music is the same music that Rachmaninoff later transcribed for orchestra alone as the conclusion of his symphonic dances much later, which casts an entirely new light on the conclusion of the symphonic dances. But it originates in his setting of the Vespers. And that is so freaking cool. It really is. So here is that moment. Get your Rachmaninoff Vespers. Here's a performance that loses nothing in comparison with the Russian recordings, and the sonics are far clearer than the somewhat kind of murky, cavernous, melodious sound that you get. It's just really, really good. Okay, last pile. Rossini's Stabat Mater with his Giovanna d'Arco cantata. Very, very nice to have. A lovely work, not performed all that often, Giovanna d'Arco, that is. And the Stabat Mater, well, it's not all that well known either. This is a solid performance. It's not going to win any awards for solo singing, although some of the solos are quite good. And it's a beautiful work. You should get to know it. So that's nice to have. And then we have the John Rutter Requiem and some other pieces by John Rutter. Yes, the Carols for Choirs guy. I played percussion in some John Rutter concerts. He used to come to New York, and with Mid-America Productions. I don't know if any of you remember that, but they what they did was they had like local high school choirs from around the country pay to come to New York, and John Rutter would coach them all in a giant choral concert of mostly his own stuff, and with a pickup orchestra, and I was one of those that they picked up. And I have to tell you a little story about this. We were doing his Magnificat, and John Rutter is just the nicest guy in the world, and he's conducting, and I was playing the bongo part, and he was yelling at the choir, he was talking to the choir, because they were going, Magnificat, Magnificat, Magnificat anima mea. And I'm doing the bongos, which is chuk, 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 put it up like that. And he's saying, choir, it wants to sound like a fiesta. Imagine yourself strolling down the streets of Seville, clicking your castanets and singing Magnificat. So I raised my hand, of course, and he's like, yeah, what do you want? I said, you want castanets? I got castanets. I can give you castanets. He said, no, play it as written. I said, but you said castanets. I was feeling a little bored. And he said, no, play the bongos, play the bongos. So I played the bongos really loudly, trying to make them sound like castanets. But this is a perfectly lovely John Rutter disc. And then we're Schumann. Oh, this is fascinating. Schumann, Romances and Ballads, secular songs. This is the complete Romances and Ballads for Mixed Choir and the Complete Romances for Women's Voices by Schumann. I mean, how often do you get this stuff? Major composer, and it couldn't be more rare repertoire. It's sung by Aquarius under Mark Michael de Smet, and it's just terrific. Absolutely terrific and fabulous. If you're a Schumann fan, you're not going to find this stuff so easily anywhere else. I mean, they're in the box, the EMI Complete Schumann Secular Choral Music or whatever that thing is. But what a cool thing to put in here under letter S. And then we get Von Hall, of all people. Where are you going to find this sucker? This is the Missa Pastoralis and then his Missa Solemnis, which is just fantastic. Von Hall's a good composer. Don't get me wrong. He's a very good composer. He's a very good composer of choral music. Two lovely classical works that you're not going to find easily anywhere else. I mean, isn't this great? It's a wonderful advertisement for the Naxos catalog, but it's just, as a collection, it's just marvelous. I mean, it's a reason to get all this stuff, even though you're going to get another Mozart Requiem and a Brahms German Requiem, you may not care. There's so much here that you're just not going to find easily anywhere else. Then the Vivaldi Gloria and the Bach Magnificat. Okay, having just said it's so much you're not going to find anywhere else, here's one of the more obvious couplings out there. Who's doing this? It's Nicholas Ward and the Schola Cantorum of Oxford, Jeremy Summerlee. And it's those people, very reliable. And it's going to be nobody's favorite performances, but also nobody's least favorite because they're all just solid. And of course, you got to have some Bach. You really just got to have some Bach, right? And let's see, what else have we got? Oh, there's the Hildegard of Bingen thing. This was in the early music collection. This is with the Oxford Camerata and Jeremy Summerlee, responsories and antiphons. Okay, so you get Hildegard twice. What could be bad? And, oh, look at this one. This was a Classics Today 1010. Fabulous record. Eric Whitacre, possibly the best known and greatest choral music composer out there today, or one of a handful that people know about. His works are constantly performed. They're beautifully done. And this is with the Elora Festival Singers. Yes, the Elora Festival Singers under Noel Edison. It's a wonderful record. My associate David Vernier went crazy over this disc, and rightly so. And our little ClassicsToday.com 1010 is right there. See, there it is, along with everybody else's. It's a great disc. It's wonderful to have it in here. And then lastly, the Oxford Camerata with Jeremy Summerlee, a fantastic program of English madrigals and songs from Henry VIII to the 20th century, which is a perfect way to summarize the content of the entire magnificent collection. Absolutely first rate. A fantastic box. a wonderful selection of repertoire, so smartly put together. It really makes like major label stuff. Shouldn't they be embarrassed by just giving us random piles of things and then not paying any attention? But this is done by somebody who knows what they have and who's put together a really smart, really interesting collection that's worth having for people who know and love choral music very, very well, because there's a lot of stuff in there you probably don't have. And for people who don't know it and don't have it, it's going to give you just a universe of wondrous music to investigate. And that is just what can I tell you? Here it is, the Naxos Choral Collection on 30 CDs. Keep on listening, folks. Thank you for joining me. Take care.